If you can't fit into an XL or an XXL or whatever, you're done.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Katie, and for those of you who don't know me, I used to weigh 360 pounds, and I've lost 180 pounds and kept it off for years now. And on this channel, we will discuss weight loss, weight maintenance, nonsense I see online about body positivity and fat acceptance, my experiences with all of that, and, well, anything else I feel like talking about. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, and let's get into today's video. So today I have a video from our good friend to the channel, FatFabFeminist, and she has some thoughts on finding clothes in certain sizing. So I figure we'll go ahead and watch this TikTok together, and I'll give you my reaction along the way. But wait, there's more. Well, actually, while I was editing, our good friend here uploaded another TikTok that I feel actually goes very well with the one that I just reacted to. So we're actually gonna have two TikToks today, and I'll give you my reactions along the way.
You do realize that if you are smaller than an extra small, you can still fit into that extra small. Like, it might be a little bit loose on you, slightly unflattering.
Okay, it's not just that the clothing might be a little loose or a little unflattering. Depending on the garment, it might actually be unwearable. And it almost sounds like she thinks that there's not that big of a difference between maybe an extra small and an extra small, when in reality, that is still a size difference, a one size difference. And they're gonna have a difference of at least 2 inches between each size. So depending on the garment, that might not just be loose or unflattering, it might be downright unwearable. So just for reference, for those of you who don't know, for a number of years, I did work at Lane Bryant as a manager. And for a number of years, I did work at Men's Warehouse in tuxedo rentals. So I'm incredibly familiar and comfortable with measurements and sizing in both men and women, as well as how that translates into the garments on the racks and how it fits. So I actually want to give you guys a visual. Yes, I did bring props because I did run into this very issue at the beginning of swim season. So every time I order something for my kids, I always break out my measuring tape and make sure that I have updated measurements for them. And then I always check it against the size chart just to make sure for the store or the brand that I'm going to order the right size and not waste any money, right? Well, I ordered my son a pair of swim trunks that, according to the size chart, would have been just a little large on him, but it's got a drawstring waist, so I figured we were in good shape. No matter how much I tightened up the drawstrings, these literally slid right off of him. So I had to order another pair of swim trunks, just one size smaller. And thankfully, they did fit. But let's go ahead. I'm going to hold this up for you for comparison. One size difference. And yes, this even has accommodations with a drawstring waist, okay? And this is about a 2-inch difference right here. That's what you're going to find is approximately the difference in between each size. And that's going to be at each measurement point. So on a female, you'll have your bust, your waist, your hips. And every time you go up a size, it's going to go up 2 inches on all 3 of those measurements. And typically the same thing happens with men as well, but the measurements do work a little bit different with men. But since she's talking about fashion, we'll go ahead and just keep this to women's fashion just to keep it a little simpler. But as you can clearly see, the difference between a large and an extra large is approximately 2 inches of fabric. And that 2 inches of fabric, that is all the difference in the world between the shorts staying on my son and the shorts sliding right off. And especially when we're talking about swimming in a pool, you can't have super loose clothing like that. It's got to fit fairly tightly, or at least be able to stay on, so that way your child doesn't get tangled up or anything like that in their clothes. Like, these things are actually quite important. So it's not so simple as, oh, well, it might be a little loose or unflattering on you. Sometimes it makes it unwearable. I mean, I know as I lost weight and went from 360 to 180 pounds, how many times I've had to replace my clothes. I went from a size 26, 28 in dresses to now I wear a size 8, 10. So that's been a lot of clothing that I've had to replace. And yes, I had to replace these garments. There were a lot of them that I would love to have had altered into a smaller size, but in reality, that's just not always an option. But let's see what else she has to say about this.
But it's not the same thing as being larger than the largest size.
But it is. At the end of the day, if you have a garment that you cannot wear because it does not fit, it doesn't really matter which extreme you're on. it still doesn't fit. It still is not going to work. It doesn't matter if you're trying to pull pants up and you can't get them all the way up your thighs, or if you get them all the way up and then they fall right back down. You still can't leave the house that way either way, can ya? So yeah, it really is the same thing. But I notice a lot of times in this movement that whenever they talk about sizing, they want to tell you how they have it the worst of all. And when somebody does say, hey, I can empathize or I can relate, or yeah, it's a problem for us as well on the other end, they don't want to hear it. They want to hear all of the ways that they have it the worst. And how do I know that? Because I have been told by people in these very movements that finding clothing for tall people is nowhere near the same as finding clothing for a fat person. Their justification is, well, if you can't get it up on your body, you can't wear it. And yes, I have another visual. So here is a full body length shot. That is a pretty rare thing for me, actually. Most pictures that I have are selfies, or if I'm filming in here, you can see the amount of space that I have to. Ooh, I'm getting stabbed by Voltron. That's the amount of space that I have to work with in here. So try to make it work in tight spaces. This is a pretty rare thing that I have a full body shot. So this is actually right after my 8K a couple of weeks ago. And a buddy of mine was right across the finish line and took a picture right after I got across the finish line. So thank you for that. But also, I have a full body shot for a change as well, too. So just for reference, I am 5'9". And as you can see in this picture, most of my height is carried in my legs. It's the waist down is where I'm really tall. Not actually even that tall from the waist up, quite frankly. Like measurement wise, if I were to get a custom dress made, my length is all from the waist down. That is for sure. And it's not just my legs that are long. They're about a 33 or so inch inseam, but also my lower waist is pretty long as well. So when I buy tall pants, it's not just for the extra length at the bottom. Although, okay, let's go zoom in on that. Wow, that is a lot of ankle showing, okay? That is a lot of ankle showing. And those are full-length leggings with a high waist that I purchased. And that's how long they are on me. They fit more like 7/8 than full-length leggings. I have had full-length leggings in talls that actually are tall enough. It is amazing. But these ones didn't come in tall, so this is what I had to work with. But because they are high-waisted, they actually did come up on the waist, thank goodness. Not high waist, but just to the waist. But I make them work. Okay, so it's not just the length in the legs that's going to be longer when you buy a tall pair of pants, but it will also be the length in that lower portion of the torso as well. So personally, I need not only the length in the legs, but I need that extra length in the waist as well. So for example, if I'm going to buy a pair of jeans, they almost exclusively have to be in talls, because otherwise I cannot get them up to my actual waist where they belong. And again, using this picture for reference. So my waist is about 28 to 29 inches. And then my hips, the widest portion around my thighs, that's going to be about 41 inches. And if you look just below the waist, you'll see how quickly those inches start adding up for me. That's always been a spot where I've gained weight, but also it's where I have a lot of loose skin as well. So if I were to buy a pair of jeans in regular length that were going to fit my 28-inch waist and 41-inch hips, there's a real good chance I would not actually be able to pull that garment up to my actual waist and get it around and buttoned. But if I got the same exact pair of jeans, same style, same fit, same everything, but in talls, then I'll have that extra length that I need, and I'll be able to actually get them up and on my waist and be able to button my jeans like I need to. And that's why I wear things like leggings, or like wearing bike shorts today, things that are very elastic and have a lot of give and stretch to them, because they're going to be a lot more forgiving than jeans or dress pants or even a dress would ever be. So yeah, if you can't find clothing in your size, there's a good chance that garment's not going to fit you. But I just don't understand why there is such a difference in her mind between somebody who is very small versus somebody who is very large, or somebody who might be very tall, or somebody who might be very short. And I would think that if that is their whole goal, is to talk about size inclusivity and how we should all be able to find clothing that fits us, So I find it very peculiar that she's over here telling people who are trying to commiserate with her that they cannot find clothing in their sizing, that, well, you can just deal with it.
If you can't fit into an XL or an XXL or whatever, you're done. Like, you physically could not get the item of clothing onto your body.
And then that's when you would need to go to a plus size clothing store. Just like if I can't get the pants all the way up to my waist, I'm probably going to need to go find a pair of tall pants or find a different style that's going to be more forgiving.
There's no amount of like altering that's going to make it fit you.
Okay, and I get what she's trying to say to that point, that you can't just make more fabric appear if it's not there. Believe me, I love more fabric at my ankles right there. So I get it. You can't make more fabric appear. But also, if an article of clothing is too large, it doesn't mean you can alter it either. There are plenty of garments that cannot be altered due to the construction, the fabric, the fit, so many different things that can play into it. So when I was working at Men's Warehouse, I had a really beautiful dress collection. Unfortunately, most of them were a size 12 to 16, which they were all too large for what I can wear now. And I did talk to my good friend who is a seamstress, and like legitimately, this woman has made dresses and Halloween costumes for my daughter from scratch without a pattern. She makes prom dresses for so many people around here without a pattern, just a vision and a visual perhaps. She altered my wedding dress for my first wedding, so I can attest to the quality of her work, and believe me, she knows what she is doing. If there is something that can be done with fabric, she's going to figure out how to do it. That being said, she wasn't able to alter any of my dresses down. Again, due to the fabric, due to the construction, just due to the time and the effort that would be required for it. For some of these dresses that maybe cost, I don't know, $30 or $40, would have cost me upwards of $150, maybe $200 to alter a $30 dress. Yeah, that's not doable, at least on my budget, that's for sure. And it wasn't just my one friend who told me it couldn't be done either. I took those very same dresses down to my job. I took them to Men's Warehouse with me, where there were always 2 or 3 tailors working every single day. And at least at the time when I was working there, regardless of where you purchased something, whether it was menswear or women's wear, if there was a way to alter it, they would do it, and then they would charge you for the alterations. So I figured, hey, let me take these down and maybe I can even get my discount on it. And very same thing happened. I was told by 3 different tailors at my job that none of those garments could be altered. So I understand that you cannot alter something larger. You cannot add more fabric. But just because the fabric is there doesn't mean you can have it altered down either. There are a lot of limitations to garments. And especially now with fast fashion, most of that cannot be altered, nor could it even be repaired if you rip it. So it's, again, this assumption that, well, ours is worse, because they don't understand how the other side actually operates either. You can't always have something altered.
If it doesn't fit you, it doesn't fit you. That is like in no...
That's right. If it doesn't fit you, it doesn't fit you. And that should be exactly where this argument ends. If it's too large or if it's too small, it doesn't fit you. But again, with fat acceptance and body positivity, it's almost as if they're always trying to create an us versus them. Every single time, whether it's about clothing or the way people are treated or whatever the case may be, they always want to try to divide us more instead of understanding that this is the product of mass-produced clothing, and many women are going through the same issue of not being able to find their sizing, or maybe not even fitting in the standard of sizing because they're not proportional. So a lot of women can understand and empathize with this, but it's not the same because we're fat every single time, as opposed to understanding that a lot of us are going through the same thing, and then just being completely dismissive of those on the other side. So I've literally seen people comment that they have to shop in the little girls section. And I gotta admit, as a 40-year-old grown-ass woman, if I were told to shop in the kids section, I'd be pretty not happy too. I mean, my daughter is 8, and I don't ever go through her wardrobe and think to myself, wow, I would love to wear these clothes. Not even close. I love that she loves to wear her clothes and they look age appropriate on her because she is 8. But telling a grown woman that can't find their sizing to just go shop in the kids section, yeah, I'm not really sure you're going to find a whole lot of professional attire there. Not really sure you're going to find a whole lot of grown-up attire there. So I just find this whole thing comical that it's so much different if you're fat. But then she does admit, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And I mean, quite honestly, that's where this conversation should end. But let's see what else she has to say.
In no way, she performed the same thing as like skinny people not being able to fit into a size like XS. An item of.
But it is the same thing because the net result is the same. You don't have an article of clothing that fits, whether it be too big or too small. It's still the same outcome. It's still the same endgame. So I don't know why she wants to keep splitting hairs so desperately over this, because it is the same thing. I mean, if one bathing suit issue wasn't enough, I mean, thankfully my daughter's has been great, but last year I had the swimsuit saga, let me just tell you. So again, I go online, I look up bathing suits, I measure myself, I follow the size chart, and I'm in between sizing, and I'm not really sure how this brand is going to fit since it's the first time trying it. So I give it a go, and I order the size that I think is going to fit me. And within the span of about 2 weeks, I lost maybe about 5 pounds last summer at that point. And that bathing suit got so large on me, I was literally swimming out of my swim top. I mean, yeah, that is pretty much exactly the same as not being able to get it on because it is too small. At the end of the day, I am indecent and I'm not fit for public consumption. You should not be leaving the house like that. These things don't fit. It's the same thing. And then I did go ahead and order another bathing suit, another size smaller. And then over the course of last summer, I lost maybe another 10-ish pounds and ran into the same issue and had to order another bathing suit, another size smaller this year, which yay, I now do have 3 bathing suits in 3 different sizes. But I gotta say, if something's a little too large on you, it can make it completely unwearable. So the second suit that I bought last year, I already knew that I had to replace it and that it was going to be too big for me to wear this year. And when I was putting up my pool, I figured, why don't I wear my old bathing suit? That way, if something happens to it, if I get it dirty, if it rips while I'm putting up my pool and getting it filled, who cares? It's my old bathing suit. I have a new one, right? Yeah. Apologies to any of my neighbors who I may have potentially flashed. That was totally unintentional. Oh my goodness. Let's just say I'm bending over, driving some stakes into the ground, and then next thing I know, there's breezes where there should not be breezes. So yeah, that makes it completely an ineffective garment. Just because it's too large as opposed to too small doesn't mean any bit of difference in that case whatsoever. It was not covering appropriate bits, and therefore, yeah, it's effectively the same thing. So yeah, and just heads up, if you're gonna buy a swimsuit, definitely check out the reviews to see if they run big or small. That was the crucial step that I missed last year, so.
Of clothing being too baggy for you is not the same as it not literally being able to go over your body.
But it is. It absolutely is. If the clothing doesn't fit, you must acquit. No, if the clothing doesn't fit, it doesn't matter if it's too big or too small. It doesn't fit.
67% of women in the United States or more are plus size. If I'm not mistaken, roughly like 19% of the fashion industry caters to plus size women.
Okay, so what does she mean by cater? I'm genuinely curious because I actually did try to look up this statistic and I could tell that it was done by some focus group, and that's fine. And beyond that, I was going to have to pay some subscription to read it on a news site. And I mean, I love you all. I really, truly do. But I didn't want to spend money on that. So I do want to know a little bit more about those figures. I really, truly do. Because if 67% of women are in plus sizing, where's the cutoff for that? Because the fashion industry is very different from the retail industry, that's for sure. And depending on the brand or the store, I mean, shoot, at least growing up in the 90s, I definitely recall some stores even stopping at like a 10 or a 12. And then beyond that was their plus sizes. So I genuinely am curious, is it now agreed upon that a 14 is a plus size, or is it a 16? Where does plus sizing begin? And then the other question that I always have every time I hear these figures put out, how much of the percentage is at each size? Meaning how much of that 67% is a size 14-16? How much of that percentage is a size 18-20? How much of that percentage is a size 28 or above? I am genuinely curious because if I were to wager a bet on this, I'm guessing that you will have a number of women who are maybe like a size 14, 16, 18. But once you get up to a size 26, 28 and beyond, those numbers start dwindling pretty quickly. But I've never been able to actually find raw data on that. I just know what I sold at Lane Bryant, and that was quite a long time ago. So I would actually really love to see current figures and how that breaks down per size, how that actually does apply. Because I do know that a number of stores, a number of brands definitely have extended sizes way beyond what was available to me when I was shopping, like what I was able to shop for clothes in high school, for example, and I was like a size 14, 16, 18 in high school. There were so many brands that I could not shop at that do offer sizing now, that they started carrying extended sizing up to like maybe 18, 20, or 22. I was genuinely shocked because I did not have any of that available to me. Again, I'm genuinely curious the breakdown of these figures a little bit more. I keep hearing these 67% of women wear plus sizing. I mean, that could be a size 12, 14, 16. I believe Torrid even carries a size 10. I could be mistaken. Because I'm genuinely curious what the industry is labeling as plus size when they're putting these figures out. I would actually like to know a little bit more of these figures as opposed to just being put out like a blanket statement and then only 19% of retailers are catering to them. Are those 90% of retailers are plus size exclusive, or is that 19% of retailers carry plus size in any form? I'm genuinely curious because that's a big distinction right there. A big distinction. So again, very genuinely curious what these numbers actually mean. And if anybody does have those figures and would like to link it down below, please do so. I would love to read that because I would genuinely like to know more. Because I just hear these numbers kind of thrown around, and then just based off of my experience at Lane Bryant, the vast majority of clothes that we sold were going to be between a size 16 to a 22. We didn't even sell that many in a size 14 comparatively to what we did in a size 16 to a 22. And we definitely didn't sell that many in a 24, 26, 28. And not just the store that I worked at. I mean, they had no problem shipping me all over the district to work at different stores. So I worked at pretty much every store in Northeast Ohio, and that was across the board. And again, I know that was a number of years ago. That was about 20 years ago, that's for sure. But I would like to see the breakdown of those figures if anybody has them. Because I keep hearing these generalized figures put out there, but that doesn't give you a whole picture, not even close. I would really love to know the full picture when it comes to that.
Do you see?
And I would just like to point out, the 19% of retailers that are, quote, catering to plus sizes, wouldn't that 19% just be raking in the cash? Like, making money hand over fist to the point that other retailers should, like, I don't know, see their record profits because those are the only options that plus size women have? That's why I'm genuinely curious about the breakdown of these numbers, because from an economic standpoint, it doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Because if 67% of women are wearing plus sizes, and only 19% of retailers carry plus sizes, then that 19% of retailers that's carrying the plus sizing should be making 67% of the market share, if not more. But I don't know, admittedly, I was an engineering major and not an economics major.
I know math might be hard, but I'm gonna trust you.
Okay, no, but see, that's where I'm really good at. Again, engineering major, that's what I'm really good at. And the math isn't working out in my head. That's why I would like to see the actual breakdown of those figures. And that's why I would like to really see the breakdown of those figures and not just a summary that we can turn into some sort of soundbite.
Your ability to understand that there's an issue there.
And yeah, I did lay out my issues. We're not being given enough information to complete this equation. You know, when you're solving a mathematical equation, you have to have enough information in that equation to begin to even solve it. If you have too many variables, you'll never be able to solve it. All you would ever be able to do is come up with a formula with those variables. You wouldn't actually be able to solve the equation. So yeah, if we're going to talk in math terms, then we actually have to set the equation up properly if you wish to solve the equation. That's why we need all of the information, not just a soundbite of, well, this percentage this and this percentage that. Like, can we have a link for the actual raw data? And that might give us a little bit more insight as to what's going on here.
I don't know why people are on Twitter arguing with me about this before 9 a.m.
Because it's Twitter. I mean, Yeah, that's kind of what people do on Twitter. And in many cases, it's like an open forum. So, yeah, if you're going to say something, be prepared that people are going to say things back. I mean, that being said, links to my socials down below. Most of my Twitter, to be perfectly fair, is sports Twitter, or should I say Cleveland sports Twitter. So, yeah, you would be surprised the number of arguments I see just about sports all over the place. It's unreal. I mean, I'm on there so that way I can like cheer on my team, find behind the scenes things, see highlights and interviews, maybe get some news about what's upcoming, that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of people that use it just for arguments. So yeah, that's just Twitter.
I'm going back to bed, and I pray that when I wake up, y'all have developed a little bit of common sense. Thank you.
Oh, the irony. Common sense? Really? I mean, she just got done telling us all the ways that if clothing doesn't fit one way and then doesn't fit another way, how different they completely are. When the common sense in my brain is telling me that if clothing doesn't fit, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't matter if it's too big or too small. It doesn't fit. So I find that incredibly ironic. But I also find it pretty par for the course with fat acceptance. That's the fat acceptance common sense, that it doesn't matter if other people are going through the same thing. They somehow have it worse. So it doesn't matter if you're very thin and you're having trouble finding clothing that fits you, because you'll just go shop at the girls section or apparently get everything altered. Even though I know from experience that's just not always an option. And they don't care about tall people finding clothing because, well, I mean, I was personally told, who cares if your pants are too short? You can get over that. So I just find it very ironic that they want all this understanding about their situation, but yet they offer no understanding to people that are going through a similar situation, just in a slightly different way. But the end result is exactly the same. Find it very ironic that they want everyone to change for them, but they're not willing to give that same respect to other people. And this is something that I have come across repeatedly within fat acceptance and body positivity. The very same things that they are asking of other people, in this case, understanding about clothing sizing, they're not giving to anyone else whatsoever. They're just using it as a reason why they're always the victim. If we're going to go ahead and use common sense, if clothing doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And it doesn't matter if it's too big or too small, it doesn't fit. So I guess personally, I would just really like to see size inclusivity be talked about a little bit more inclusively. Actually talking about all of us who have issues when it comes to sizing. But I understand that with this movement, I think that that's probably asking too much at this point. They're always going to find a way that they're the victim. So let me know down below, what do you think? Is there really a difference between clothing that is too big or too small? Or is it the same result? And now time for our next TikTok. Now in this one, we are actually going to go ahead and watch it in its entirety, and then I will give you my reaction at the end.
What do you do last minute when an outfit does not fit and you have to wear it out tomorrow? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna adapt. So my friend Faith is partnering with PLT and designed this outfit. Very, very cute. My fat ass doesn't really fit in it because there's no stretch. And I'm like on the border of like a 26, 28, and PLT goes up to a 26, you see? So if there's no stretch, it doesn't usually work. My fault, my bad. So here's the thing, this top, if I had to go out in this, like, I could make it work. Only problem is, like, I feel as though if I breathe wrong, it's coming out, you know what I mean? So here's the option. And also, this is not the way that this top is supposed to be. Where like this is not a strap. It's supposed to go like right here, but that's just that wouldn't work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna adapt and we're gonna scrap the top. I'm just like, sorry, love you, can't wear it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put on this set from Pretty Little Thing, which is like one of their most iconic sets, right? I'm gonna use a skirt as a top and I'm gonna pair it with these two things. That's the vibe. In case you were curious, this is kind of how this is what I put around my neck, and I kind of like ripped it, but like this is a very precarious situation that I'm in right now, and if I let go or if I literally bent down the wrong way, this would open. So that's why I was putting it around. If I had to wear it like that, I would. But this top just like it wouldn't, do you see what I'm saying? It wouldn't work. So I'm gonna wear the skirt as a top. Cool. So I figured out this is kind of the vibe I'm going with now. This is a Pretty Little Thing set. And I'm just wearing a skirt at the top. I'm wearing a skirt as a top. My friend's over there. So this is it. This is what I'm gonna wear tomorrow, and I think it looks good.
Okay, so a few things. The first thing I will say is, yes, absolutely, that top definitely does not fit, and I'm very glad that she decided not to wear that in public, because it wasn't a question of there being stretch or not in that fabric. It definitely just did not fit. And again, I say this as someone who has done retail for a living for a number of years. And that is not a question of whether or not there was stretch in that fabric. That is just a garment that didn't come close at all to fitting her. And even if there were stretch in it, that wasn't going to solve the problem. It actually probably would have made the problem worse, because that particular style top, it's based off of a corset style top. Unfortunately, there's no structure to it whatsoever. There's no boning. There is no reinforcement to it whatsoever at all. It didn't even look like there was a lining or interfacing to it. So again, there is absolutely no structure to that, and you're just relying on the cut of the fabric to hold you up. Yeah, that wasn't gonna get any better with stretch. And there were a few other things I definitely noticed as well. But the big one I noticed was the change in attitude. And I have to believe it's because these clothes were part of a collaboration that her friend did with this company. So I just noticed a massive difference in the way that she was talking to thin people about not being able to find something that fit them, versus how she was reacting to this not fitting and the fact that this was a collaboration with a friend of hers. So very curious. And I must admit, I wasn't the only one who noticed this. I did happen to peruse the comment section at time of recording. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these comments. And if you'd like to read all of them, feel free to pause so you can read them. Girl, let me tell you, I'm a size 20 on other sites, and on PLT I ordered a 22. It was so tight I couldn't breathe at all. Same situation, I was sick. A bummer that your friend designed this and the brand doesn't have a greater size range. Hopefully they see this and adjust for the future. To which our friend actually did respond. No, I think honestly the size range is great. I'm just someone who is typically on the larger end of the plus size range, and things with no stretch are finicky. I just got the wrong thing. And she actually got some pushback from that original commenter. I'm of the opinion that you and anyone wearing a larger size than you still deserve access to cute clothes. I commented this because you said the brand only goes up to a size 26. Another comment said, they run small too. I know you probably don't want to ruffle any feathers, but they can do better than that. And I gotta be honest, those comments there, not FatFabFeminist's response, but those comments were more in line what I thought I would see as a response from our friend here. Because when it comes to size inclusivity, she wants everyone to cater to her. I mean, how many videos does she have where she is saying that she wants to be catered to as a plus size woman? And there are whole songs saying if you don't have a 4X, you're not even trying.
If you ain't got at least a 4X, you ain't trying. Ooh.
So I'm genuinely confused why there's such a change in tone or attitude from our friend here. Except I know exactly why. It's because this collaboration was done with her friend. So when it's someone within their own community, everything is a-okay. But if somebody is not a part of that community, everything that they do is going to be wrong and you'll be taken to task for it. So does she actually care about size inclusivity? So after watching both of these TikToks, I am genuinely confused where she actually stands on this, because the only thing that I could find that is congruent out of both of these TikToks is the glaring hypocrisy. Everything is wrong that doesn't cater to her or this movement, unless it's one of their own. And they wonder why so many people consider them to be a cult. So let me know down below, what do you think? Do you believe that our friend here actually cares about size inclusivity? Or was she just trying to give her friend a pass? Let me know down below what you think. I'm genuinely curious and I love reading all of your comments. That is where we will leave things today. I thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you all in the next one. Bye! Hey, beautiful. Hi. Yes, would you like to show everyone your beautiful eyes? Pokey, that's not your eyes. Bye.